Sometimes she appears as a ghost, sometimes as the elderly woman who liked parties and hats. More often as the girl of long ago, wearing an air-blue gown or with her bright hair flapping free, and he recalls how she seemed to him once a sublime, almost Homeric woman, fair-eyed and white-shouldered, broad-browed and brown-tressed. He talks to her about her past self, with your nut-coloured hair and grey eyes and rose flush coming and going. He remembers how the light of the sunset over the sea, with its dipping blaze, dyed her face fire-red. He relives a moment when he walked with her on a rainy road, and they exchanged the words that changed their lives, calling up her image and then letting it go. I look and see it there, shrinking, shrinking. I look back at it amid the rain, for the very last time, for my sand is sinking, and I shall traverse old love's domain, never again. At the same time, he knows that she is past love, praise, indifference, blame. She is shut in her grave, the clodded shell of her tiny cell. She is wrapped in her shroud, with the rain that she hates, or hated, beating down on her. She is not there where he expects to see her, working in the garden in the evening, and when he returns from his walk, the house where she should be is empty of her. He needs to speak to her and see her, although he knows he cannot. The poetry allows him to. It keeps him balanced between the possible and the impossible, as the bereaved need to be, so that he can sorrow and then rejoice, and then admit that the rejoicing cannot change how things are now. There were times when he thought of the poems as a way of making amends to Emma. "The only amends I can make," he wrote to another woman he had loved. He was seeing her again in the place where he first knew her, and with which he always identified her, the remote coast of North Cornwall, where the untamed landscape and the young woman on horseback with her hair blowing behind her had seemed almost exotic to him in 1870. Away from Cornwall, her exoticism faded, and after they were married they never returned there, for which Hardy blamed himself. More than anything, though, he was recreating his great romance, writing for the first time, openly and boldly, of the woman whom I loved so, and who loyally loved me, restoring her to the Cornish cliffs where she had seemed to him to embody the spirit of the landscape. I found her out there, on a slope few see, that falls westwardly, to the salt-edged air, where the ocean breaks, on the purple strand, and the hurricane shakes the solid land. The sequence, which he called Poems of 1912 to 1913, adding the words Veteris vestigia flammae, traces of old flames, makes up one of the finest and strangest celebrations of the dead in English poetry. It is cast in a different mould from Lycidas, Adonais, or In Memoriam, fragmented, less marmoreal, but it still stands beside them. The metrical patterns and shapes of each poem are ambitious, complicated, surprising. The more risks he takes, the less he falters, and what he gets away with is astonishing. No two use the same structure. There is a bow to Shakespeare when he reminds Emma's ghost that night is ending, and "Soon you will have, dear, to vanish from me, for the stars close their shutters." But the voice is purely his own. The Voice was written within weeks of Emma's death in December 1912. Its first words go straight to the point. Woman much missed. You might think he had written down what was in his heart immediately, but the manuscript shows that his first draft suggested something more complicated and even sinister. Oh, woman weird. We can look over his shoulder and see how second thoughts brought simplicity. Woman much missed, how you call to me, saying that now you are not as you were, when you had changed from the one who was all to me, but as at first, when our day was fair. The call to me, is made into a wail of grief by the woman much missed before it. The woman is trying to reach him and explain something complicated, that her death means she is no longer as she was in the later years of their marriage, when you had changed, but as she had been at first.